All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they
All
have
sentient
beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me.
Yeah, it was the reverberation. Please go ahead.
And those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. As earth and the other elements, together with space, eternally provide sustenance in many ways for the countless sentient beings, so may I become sustenance in every way for sentient beings to the limits of space until all have attained nirvana. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. At this moment, my life has become fruitful. I have realized my human life. Today, I'm born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I'm a child of the Buddhas. From now on, I will forthrightly perform the actions befitting my family. I will act so as not to degrade the faultlessness and discipline of my family. Just as with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, thus somehow bodhicitta has been born in me. This is the supreme Amrita which destroys death, the inexhaustible treasure which removes the world's poverty. It is the supreme medicine which cures the world's sickness, the tree which provides rest for beings weary of wandering on the path of existence. It is the universal bridge on which all travelers may pass over the lower realms, the rising moon of mind which dispels the torment of the kleshas. It is the great sun which puts an end to the obscurity of ignorance, the pure butter which comes of churning the milk of the holy Dharma. For travelers wandering the paths of existence, seeking happiness from objects of enjoyment, it is supreme bliss near at hand, the great feast which satisfies sentient beings, today witnessed by all the protectors. I have welcomed the sentient beings and Sugatas, Devas, and Asuras rejoice. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. The insight that brings us to the other shore. Avalokiteshvara, while practicing deeply with the insight that brings us to the other shore, suddenly discovered that all of the 5 skandhas are equally empty. And with this realization, he overcame all ill being. Listen, Shariputra, this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. Their true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. That is why in emptiness, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are not separate self-entities. The 18 realms of phenomena, which are the 6 sense organs, the 6 sense objects, and the 6 consciousnesses, are also not separate self-entities. The 12 links of interdependent arising and their extinction are also not separate self-entities. Ill-being, the cause of ill-being, the end of ill-being, the path, insight, and attainment are also not separate self-entities. Whoever can see this no longer needs anything to attain. Bodhisattvas who practice the insight that brings us to the other shore see no more obstacles in their mind. And because there are no more obstacles in their mind, they can overcome all fear, destroy all wrong perceptions, and realize perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future, by practicing the insight that brings us to the other shore, are all capable of attaining authentic and perfect enlightenment. Therefore, Shariputra, it should be known that the insight that brings us to the other shore is a great mantra, the most illuminating mantra, the highest mantra, a mantra beyond compare, the true wisdom that has the power to put an end to all kinds of suffering. Therefore, let us proclaim a mantra to praise the insight that brings us to the other shore. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha.
Can you go back to sharing, please, Diane? Or Kathy, whoever was doing it. So if you want to go up to the praise of bodhicitta. Okay, so if you just look at the order of the prayer book, keep going up. We have this beautiful prayer that we love, the Bodhisattva prayer. Oops. The Bodhisattva prayer. And then after it, we have the 4 immeasurables. Keep scrolling down. And then after it, we have the Heart Sutra. So here you can see that, all right, now you can stop sharing. Here you can see that really the order of the prayer book is reflecting the process that we're working with in meditation. And each time we recite those prayers, we're also seeing the key factors and then finding the key factors in our actual practice. So we start with the Bodhisattva prayer after refuge. And when we define the Bodhisattva prayer, first, there are two kinds of bodhicitta, aspirational bodhicitta and action bodhicitta. So the extraordinary poetry in this prayer really allows us to connect with our very deep altruistic aspiration and the magnitude of that. And then when we go to the four immeasurables, if we were to say, well, what is bodhicitta? We could say the clearest understanding is presented in the four immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, rejoicing, and equanimity. And then as we're understanding that, we're seeing that that also is presented in two ways, in relative and absolute bodhicitta. So the absolute bodhicitta aspect is reflected in our investigation or contemplation in the Heart Sutra. So there's a sense of understanding the view very clearly just in the order of our prayers. So the view is relative and absolute bodhicitta, and we are moving in our training within that view from relative, which is ourselves in relation to sentient beings, to absolute, ourselves with no separation, or ourselves in union, interdependent, interconnected with all of life. And while holding that view, very clearly understanding, oh, okay, this is the way all of practice moves. Then within that view, we have the actual practice. And each actual practice contains these factors, but they're a specific training that address a specific area. So therefore, there's multi-layered learning going on within each specific practice, which leads to the maturation that's presented in the view. So particularly after spending a year and a half studying the Heart Sutra, what we can connect with is, all right, what is the difference between what we experience and even the word immeasurable? How does the training in relation, loving kindness sent in relation to one individual, how does that relate to immeasurable? And it relates because as long as it's relative, there is always our conceptual mind, and our conceptual mind distinguishes I and me in relation to one individual or multiple individuals. It's like looking at the snowflakes. We can look outside our window and see individual snowflakes, or you might see individual raindrops, and we can relate to an individual drop or snowflake. But seeing a blizzard, it's hard to comprehend. Well, then how is it that we can relate to each and every snowflake, which is still not all sentient beings? It's just a huge number. As long as there is an I on one side and an individual snowflake or raindrop on the other side, it is limited. However, once we are working with appearance emptiness, then we are in union with all of the snowflakes or all sentient beings. And the specific training is taking us on a very gentle path from this relative experience to the absolute. And in each practice, you can get glimpses of how you are growing in your understanding and how you have an opportunity to taste or experience an aspect of what we were studying in the Heart Sutra within, let's say, today, our loving kindness practice. So we've been working with Lord Jigten Sumgön's specific training, which has two main stages. The first stage, we're connecting deeply as we can, and that will grow in strength with each practice, to a felt sense of loving kindness. And we can touch that through a spontaneous opening of the heart, as you would with a beautiful toddler or a little animal, or a memory of receiving unconditional love, dropping that story and really looking at the felt sense. And then we were also looking at how does that feel physically? How do we see our undefendedness and unconditional opening as a sensation in every cell of our bodies? So each practice has multi-layered areas of growth. Last week, we started expanding that felt sense to another, and we were selecting someone who was dear to us, or someone who is essentially, we have a feeling of security that we can open up without feeling afraid or without fear jumping up, or all kinds of thoughts. We're comfortable with that person. We feel as though we can open, and yet we may not be fully open. So when we feel the waning of the strength of the felt sensation, body and mind, of loving kindness, when there's any kind of lessening, then we go back to the feeling again, settle ourselves into that, and then begin afresh. So what we're seeing is what our experience of this I-ness, that arises as fear, as defendedness, as many, many conceptual thoughts. We're seeing how it arises, the different kinds of strength that arises, and what the spectrum is between a giant concrete wall and, let's say, a porous kind of wall, or a very thin veil that we're just blowing away. So essentially, we're seeing what this sense of I is like arising, because we want to be able to have clear seeing, and eventually to see all the levels of how we, over time, so that it's not even conscious anymore, have such a strong I that the door closes shut, as opposed to being open and being undefended. In order to let that dissolve, we have to see it, experience it, understand it, and as we are ready within our training, allow it to soften, become porous, and eventually dissolve. So the quality of clear seeing is an inner transparency and inner honesty. And knowing that this is a product of infinite numbers of lives and infinite numbers of habitual patterns and many, many situations where it was necessary for our safety, for a strong I to arise. However, we are working with our aspiration right now to have a vast open heart and a vast mind. So we're physically and mentally creating on our cushion a safe space so that we can really look at all the different ways defensiveness arises, conditions arise, all the different forms that they take. And gradually in this aspirational setting, also experience what happens when they're not present. So the process stays the same, connecting strongly and deeply with this open, undefended tenderness and allowing that to expand. Now, in Lord Jigten Sumgön's instructions, his sense is not to isolate categories such as a dear person, but to just gradually move in a spiral around your dining room, around your neighborhood, around your office. And in that movement, many different kinds of relationships that you have will occur. And today I'm saying, okay, we aren't going to work with the difficult people today. Let's focus on still within the category of dear and expanding perhaps to the category of neutral or total strangers, people you don't know. But you will notice as you allow your bodhicitta to radiate, in this case, loving kindness aspect of bodhicitta, even within the category of dear, your friend circle, your family, your menagerie of animal friends, there's still differences in the relationships. So the capacity to be open, tender, undefended, without any reservational thoughts arising is going to have different qualities with each being that emerges in your imagination. And that's what's supposed to happen, so that we can see in each and every case what's a little defended feel like, what does a little qualified feel like, versus totally undefended, open, and loving. And in terms of inner honesty, transparency, clear seeing, that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see both the obvious differences, but also the subtle differences. And do they appear as a tightening of the stomach, a tightening in the heart area? Do they appear as, oh, but this person 20 years was mean to me, or this animal is so much more affectionate towards me? We want to see the intellectual and physical reservations as they arrive, knowing that they're impermanent, knowing that they're just sensations that are mental experiences, so they have no substance to them, and that we have the capacity to let them go, just like in our shamatha practice when we let go of a thought. We just allow that thought to drop away. We're letting ourselves experiment with letting the reservations fall away, letting the doubts fall away. Is it all right for me to do this? Will I be hurt if I'm this open? What are the consequences going to be? Will I have to change how I behave with them if I let go of all of these qualifying factors and qualifying thoughts? So we're going to start the practice again, spending a minute or two. Now you're more comfortable connecting with loving kindness, but finding your home base in loving kindness, your well where it's arising, and then in your own way, in your own imagination, allowing it to move out to folks that you are friendly with or folks that you don't know, very slowly and gradually, each individual noticing, are there qualifiers, are there defenses, recognizing that, observing that. In the minute they arise, letting go, or I have to go back actually to home base, really let the full strength arise and start again. And Lord Jigten Sumgun instructs us to smile as we're doing this. You'll find it makes a difference if you physically smile. You might even feel your physical sensations in your body changing as you smile. And to sit in the earth witnessing mudra, or the traditional stance of Buddha Shakyamuni, with your left hand in your lap and your right hand on your knee. So let's begin, and each of you may be in a different stage of the practice, and that's fine. You may choose to spend longer becoming familiar with loving kindness, or you may feel ready to extend. And what we're looking for is the shifting once you start to extend, and how you let go of what is ever obstructing the fullness. Okay. We can begin. Okay, just pausing for a minute. As you're able to see the obstructing thoughts or physicality arise as obstructions, just take note that the thoughts are all about oneself. Is it okay for me? Do I feel fear? Or an instinctual location of self somewhere in the body. So we're looking to see how habitually arising, consciously or unconsciously, this isolation quality of self interrupts the flow and expansion of loving kindness. Okay, continue. And pausing, concluding. If you'd like to continue, please feel free to go ahead. And for those who are interested, I invite you to share, how are you seeing and experiencing the waning? Is it more physical? Is it in the form of thoughts? And how are you working with letting go of that thoughts? So I'm opening some of the breakout rooms for discussion. Maybe 7 or 8 minutes of discussion. And concluding, before our discussion, I'll dedicate the practice and conclude the live stream. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.